You're listening to Psychology's Outer Limits with your host, Professor of Psychology, Erick R. Williams.
Good evening, good afternoon, and everything in between. Welcome to the July 5th, 2015 edition of Psychology's Outer Limits. I am your host, Professor Erick Williams, and we are broadcasting via InceptionRadioNetwork.com. And if you do happen to be on the website, please click on chat and go into our chat room. We usually get a lot of cool interaction and great questions via the chat room. You may dial in anytime you want, The number is 888-919-2355. And then we also have iOS apps, well, one, and then an app for Android as well. There is a Facebook page for the show. Same name as the show, Psychology's Outer Limits. Twitter is @ or hashtag Erick Psychology. And Erick is spelled E-R-I-C-K. Or you can Twitter @ or hashtag I_R_N. And email is busybrainradio@gmail.com. busybrainradio@gmail.com. And our producer this evening, as always, is MJ, and he makes sure everything works because from my side of all this, it just seems like magic. Now, our topics, well, we have one topic tonight, and then we're going to have a guest, and this will be the first guest for the show. He'll be our inaugural guest. Our psychology topic is certainly on the outer limits of psychology because it's something that we don't understand at all. And the topic is synesthesia. And if you don't know what it is, you will in a few minutes. And we're going to do that till about our break at 7:30. And then we're going to bring on Anthony Cummins. He's actually a sea captain. He's a seaman, but he prefers to be called Anthony. And Anthony's retired now, living in Italy, where it's very early in the morning. I think there's 6 hours. I'm not quite sure. We'll ask him. And Anthony is a retired pirate. A pirate, like in the movies. So I'm looking forward to having Anthony on, and certainly, jump in the chat room, and if you have questions for Anthony, or call in, be even more fun. The first person to call in, for any reason, will win the second Bluetooth speaker. I was a little late getting the first one out. I apologize, but it is on its way. So anyway, that's our every week we'll have some kind of a giveaway. So if you call in for any reason, when you do counseling, it seems, normal counseling. I wasn't dealing with schizophrenics or people with psychosis. Most people to go to a counselor are going through what I call bumps in life. Life has bumped them, usually some kind of loss. Relationships, probably number one. So I came across the top 10 reasons for staying in an unhappy marriage. Now, I can only attribute this to let's see, who was it? I found online. It was actually a survey from a United Kingdom law firm. They had 2,000 respondents, all were married parents. And 18% had a specific date in mind to end their relationship. But what a weird thing to put on your calendar. September 4th. Tell her I'm out of here. Got to write that down. Okay. I just made that up. So anyway, top 10 reasons for staying in an unhappy marriage. Our first is, number one is, let's do this backwards. Number 10, we have too many shared financial interests. But that can be undone. And then say when you're finished, you don't have that many financial interests because you gave all your money to the lawyers. All right. Now, that was a joke. I hope some of you laughed. Number 9, I worry I won't meet anyone else. Now, that's really big in counseling. Women in particular, after a relationship ends, whether it was their idea or not, tend more likely than men to feel unattractive, unworthy. I'll never find anybody. So that one certainly strikes home. I've heard that a lot of times. Number 8, worried about how we will manage contact with the children. That makes sense. Number 7, for my partner's money. I've not been married to someone wealthy. If you've been married to someone or are married to someone that's so wealthy that you won't leave them but want to, please call in. I think that'd be interesting. Number 6, the stigma of divorce. Is there really still a stigma of divorce? I mean, it's, I've been through one or two or three or four or five, well, at least one. It felt awkward. It felt weird, but I didn't feel a stigma. I just, I just felt all the things you feel when you go through a divorce. Number 5, I want to give it some more time before making a final decision, which I think translates to I don't have the courage yet to do this. But some people probably really aren't sure. But I have worked with people that have been wondering for a decade or longer if they should stay in their relationship. Number 4, I can't afford to go through a divorce. Well, you might not. It's awfully expensive. It's I'm trying to think. I guess you could easily spend $3,000 or $4,000, but if you and your partner are on exactly the same page, you can do it without a lawyer. You can buy a kit online, and some couples are able to do that. But if each of you get a lawyer, yeah, it is expensive. Number 3, I can't afford to move out, live on my own. That is very common. A lot of couples separate under the same roof. They each have their own bedroom. They more or less live their own lives. The children are made aware that mom and dad no longer consider themselves a couple. But I think this happens a lot, an awful lot of people, because a lot of couples, they're struggling as it is. And then, you're supposed to split and duplicate all those expenses. I mean, these days, just rent and utilities or a house payment, utilities, that could easily be $2,000. That's $24,000 a year. That's maybe, getting close to 30. That's a full-time job just to leave someone. Number 2, worried about the impact on the children. Well, the best predictor for how well children will do as a result of a divorce is how well the parents get along after the divorce. So I can at least offer a little bit of help on that one. If parents get along well after the divorce, their children will do pretty well. I mean, it's no fun. Kids don't like it. They get a little bit scared. But, divorce is fairly prevalent. I think I talked recently about the fact that 50% statistic is way off. The divorce rate is closer to between 20 and 25%. And then the number 1 reason is I have too much to lose. And I wish I could have read the comments for that, because I think we've covered money. Or maybe it's just belongings or all the stuff that the couple has done together over time. But I think the details for that would have been interesting. Now, they had another list, the top 10 things parents do to keep up appearances. I'll run through that kind of fast. Number 1, keeping problems bottled up rather than discussing them. Yep. Number 2, argue in a different room away from the children. Well, if you got to argue, don't do it in front of the kids. That they do find scary. Enjoy family Christmas and birthdays, sleep in the same bed, go on family holidays, go on family day trips, cuddle up on the sofa to watch TV in front of the children, kiss each other goodbye in the mornings, hold hands, go on date nights. So since it's called the top 10 list parents do to keep up appearances, I think this is when they're faking the marriage. I don't know. But 20 to 25% of you that are listening have probably been through a divorce, so I'm sure a lot of those struck a chord with you. All right, let's get back over here. Got 2 computers and a tablet and a dog. The dog is asleep. I hope she stays. I'm worried there's going to be a noise outside, and then she's going to go. She's going to go nuts. What I wanted to talk about this evening, our topic is synesthesia. And synesthesia is, first of all, it has to be neurological. It occurs when two or more of our senses commingle or kind of trade places. A very common form of synesthesia is colors and numbers. For example, there are people that have these incredible math abilities, and when they're questioned about how did you solve such a complicated problem, they'll say, "Well, I just read back the colors." So if you ask them, for example, what's 75 times 92, they see colors. And let's say, the color yellow is 5 and the color red is 3, whatever. They just read off the colors. So we have two things going on there. One, we have colors that are numbers, and the person isn't consciously aware of even doing the math. They hear a problem, and then they basically see a rainbow. I want to find, let's see. This is a short little thing I found. I'm guessing that this girl was either a teen or a preteen, but she writes, "I know that the number 4 is yellow, but I have a friend who insists 4 is red. She also says 4 has a motherly personality, but my 4 has no personality. None of my numbers do, but all of my numbers have colors, and so do my letters, days, and months. My friend and I both have synesthesia, a perceptual condition in which the stimulation of one sense triggers an automatic, involuntary experience in another sense. And synesthesia can occur between just about any combination of the sound. There are people that taste sounds. There are people that can't hear a certain sound because, they feel like they have a mouthful of dog poop or whatever. A person who has this condition, I don't know if it's a disorder. I'm not sure what to call it. They're called synesthetes. So that's, I guess, that could be the plural too. They may see sounds, taste words, feel a sensation on their skin when they smell a scent or hear something. They may also see abstract concepts like time projected into space around them, such as looking at an image. And many synesthetes experience more than one form of the condition. She goes on to say, for example, my friend and I both have grapheme, that's Grapheme, color synesthesia. Numbers and letters trigger a color experience. She says because her numbers have personality, she also has a form of synesthesia known as ordinal linguistic personification. Boy, I'm pleased I was able to say that. That was pretty good. Anyway, David Eagleman, a neuroscientist and director of the Laboratory for Perception and Action at the Baylor College of Medicine. Now, he's not a synesthete, but he does study them. His analogy is when you see a photo, in the article there's a picture of President Obama. When you see this photo, you think President Obama, even though those words aren't written anywhere on the picture. Your brain automatically generates that for you. It makes that connection. It's called the association cortex of the occipital region of the brain. It's like Google. It looks things up. But for synesthetes, this could happen just right out in front of them. Now, that is really interesting. About 40% of synesthetes have a first-degree relative with synesthesia. So it's kind of an argument for at least a certain degree of genetic transmission. Most synesthetes recall having synesthesia for as long as they can remember. Let's see. I think this is the same girl again. I was definitely playing with it when I was 5 or 6, because I remember raiding my parents' record cabinet, searching for records that I liked to listen to for colors. Different person. Okay. She associates colors with sounds and tastes. Eagleman's lab is searching for the genes that trigger synesthesia, and he's already identified a region on chromosome 16 that's linked to grapheme-colored synesthesia. It's possible. No, we could all do this. There's this phrase called the tyranny of the frontal lobes, that when your frontal lobes, which is where you do all your heavy-duty thinking, is working, it kind of turns down the other parts of your brain, like your occipital lobe and your parietal lobes, and does its processing. But this may not be happening. The synesthetes, their various senses may be allowed to sort of keep running, but not in the background. And it makes you wonder if in the future we could create synesthesia in people. Here's one person who said, if you tell me that your letter J is a very particular, no, this is the experimenter. If you tell him that the letter J is a very particular shade of powder blue, then he tests them on that for a very precise shade. And there can be thousands and thousands of shades. And if you're just being poetic or metaphorical or making something up, then you can't capture those colors again. But if you're really synesthetic, then when you come back several years later and go to the letter J, they'll go to that very, very same shade. That is really interesting. So right now they're using really high-tech imaging, like positron emission tomography. I mean, it's in a way, it's like an MRI, to try to find out what parts of the brain are sort of lighting up. Interestingly enough, I read that some car companies are hiring synesthetes because the way they experience colors and sounds helps the car company make decisions about what colors they may want to use. And that I'm not sure if all of them do this, but some electric cars have speakers that make an engine kind of sound, because an electric car doesn't make any sound. And it would be really easy to run over somebody. So they have to create a sound. And I wonder if there'd be a way to, maybe the synesthetes help them figure out what sounds, the most like a car catching up to you. In 2005, Daniel Tammet set the European record for pi memorization. I know, 3.14159. That's as far as I can get. Anyway, he memorized 22,514 digits in 5 hours. And he attributed this feat to his ability to see numbers with color. To him, when he was thinking about pi, it was like the world's longest train going by, and every car was a different color. And when he saw yellow, he'd say 2, and when he saw red, he'd say 4. But to me, what's just as interesting is that his brain is calculating pi to over 22,000 digits, and he didn't make any errors. So the synesthesia itself is interesting, that people would sort of conjoin their senses. But what's just as interesting to me is the fact that they're doing amazing cognitive feats. For about 4 years, I worked with young adults, 18 to 21, that were mentally retarded. Well, we have a new term now. We use intellectual disability. They could stay in school, in the high school system, until they were 21. And I worked with them in groups of 8 or 10. We met for about 6 weeks, once a week for 3 or 4 hours, and just on living skills and stuff like that. But a couple of the folks I worked with were autistic. Autism's on a spectrum now. It's like a speedometer. If you barely have it, you got 2 miles an hour worth of autism. And if you've got the really severe forms where, you might hurt yourself, you got 120 miles per hour worth of autism. But there was this one fellow in particular, it was very hard to communicate. He did a lot of what we call echolalia. He just simply repeated what you said. But he, if you gave him a date, he could tell you what day of the week it was. And I remember when someone told me that, I called him over and I said, if I tell you my birthday, can you tell me what day of the week it is? And he just nodded. So I said January 1st, 1958. And I swear to God, the 8 was still floating in the air when he said Wednesday. That's a savant ability. I mean, what in the world is going on in his brain? He was also a map savant. He couldn't forget basically any kind of map he'd seen. Now, I live in the East Coast in Maryland, and I haven't seen the young man in 4 or 5 years, but he could probably tell you the name of every road in at least a 100-mile radius of Frederick City, and all the buildings along the road and when they were built. So on the one hand, he had some very incredible gifts. He could do the math thing, the day of the week thing. He had this gift for math, maps. But on the other hand, it was almost impossible to communicate with him. He was he struggled to say hello, and yet he somehow had a personality. I really enjoyed him. I remember running into him in the mall, and he walked up to me very robotic-like, put his hand out and said, "Hello, Mr. Williams," and shook my hand, because I don't think he can. I'm not sure this kid can forget anything. Sometimes people aren't born with synesthesia. Sometimes they acquire it through an accident or an injury. So there was this guy in Toronto after he had a stroke. It says about 9 months after suffering a stroke, the patient noticed that words written in a certain shade of blue evoked a strong feeling of disgust. Yellow was only slightly better. Raspberries, which he had never used to eat very often, now tasted like blue, and blue tasted like raspberries. High-pitched brass instruments elicited feelings of ecstasy, and light blue flashes in his peripheral vision caused large parts of his brain to light up on an MRI. So, again, if we have this incredible technology, we can put a person in an MRI and then, show them colors or play sounds, and their brain isn't lighting up the way it would if they didn't have this particular, this condition. Because I'm just not sure if it's a disorder. Schizophrenia is a disorder, anxiety, depression, but some of these folks have, along with the synesthesia, they have incredible gifts. But most synesthetes are born with the condition. But there's been at least 2 people, this neurologist said, that developed synesthesia after experiencing a stroke. And I thought I wrote about one who picked up the condition after a car accident. Absolutely amazing stuff. I had another young man I knew that he was autistic. And again, you really have to pay attention to the spectrum of autism, because on the one hand, he has all of the typical issues that many autistic people have, and that's social stuff. Waving. If you're waving to him, he may not know if you're shooing a fly away, pointing to something. The social niceties of the world don't quite make sense. Sometimes they have a very hard time focusing on more than one thing. It's like there's a volume control for attention, and it's turned up, and everything gets equal attention, which is why you often see autistic people sort of bury themselves. But you could walk over to a piano and just play anything, either an actual song or something random, and then he would sit down and play it back precisely the way you played it. Now, he couldn't read music, so it's not like you could put music in front of him and say, play this, but if he'd heard a song before, he could just sit down and play it. It's interesting that so many times in people with autism and other intellectual disorders, like what we used to call mental retardation, which is generally an IQ below 70. There's also like a savant kind of thing. So there's a little bit of gift I'm not sure if it's there to offset the autism or not, but I've had quite a bit of experience with autistic folks, and generally what I was trying to do was to help them with that social stuff, to say thank you when the cashier hands you change. Don't let let them all slam shut on the person behind them. Little things like that. Noticing people. That's very, very, very hard for them, but they are all very endearing. Okay, we're going to go random here for a second. All right. I wanted to talk about this last week and I forgot to. This is a condition or disorder. It's called pica, and this is when people eat non-food, non-nutritious things. Okay, I'm not talking that someone eats something you don't like fried chicken, gizzards. Oh, fried chicken lizards, wouldn't that be something? But anyway, this was published June 26. Doctors extract 5-foot-long hairball from girl's stomach. A teenage girl in Indiana is recovering from a surgery during which doctors removed a 5-foot-long hairball from her stomach. I can't even pronounce her name. She's 15 years old, and her thing was hair. She ate hair. She ate her hair. She ate her friend's hair. She ate hair that she would find on the ground, or in hairbrushes. And I guess I would have thought you would digest it, but you don't. The hair forms masses in your GI tract, and it just clogs. Anyway, there's been fewer than 40 cases of this reported. But can you imagine that, a 5-foot-long hairball? Other people will, they'll eat, kind of heard of them eating things like windshield wipers, or they might like cloth or pencils. I mean, it's surprising that their body does it at all. I'm surprised that we don't hear of more deaths, but our body's a pretty amazing mechanism, and in cases like this, it just deals with it. Sometimes our body will simply coat something, try to stick it off to one side, but I just can't imagine what a 5-foot-long hairball looked like. I'm guessing that it didn't look real good. But anyway, that's called pica. You've probably heard of that. In a way, pregnant women develop, it's not really pica. What happens is that as the growing fetus needs a nutrition, something along those lines, the mom's brain will look up a food that has it. So I'm going to make this up. I do this in class all the time. Let's say mom needs vitamin D, and her brain knows grapes has vitamin D. So mom develops a craving for grapes. Okay, end of random stuff. We're going to take a break, and then when we come back from our break, we're going to have Anthony Cummins with us. I apologize for mispronouncing words. Allergies are bad today, and nose is clogged up. Anyway, get yourself something to eat, drink, go to the bathroom, take a stretch, and I'll be back in just a few moments. And we're back, folks. Hope you got a nice snack or something to drink, or went to the bathroom, or whatever it is you're doing on this nice Sunday evening. And, oh gosh, we didn't even talk about the 4th of July. I love fireworks. The weather wasn't great for it. Anyway, we have with us from Italy, where it is 1:30 in the morning Eastern time, Anthony Cummins. And Anthony is our guest tonight. Anthony is a captain, a retired pilot. Pirate. He prefers simply to be called Anthony, so that's what I'm going to do. And Anthony said he wanted to open with a question of his own. So go ahead, Anthony.
Good evening, Eric, and good evening to your listeners on Inception Radio Network. This is a kind of a first for me, because I'm going to tell you that I have a problem that falls right within the bounds of your work, Eric.
Psychology?
Yes, and it's like this. All my life, during my days of work. I'm now retired very recently. I had to hide who I am, what I do.
You had to hide your profession.
Of course. And it got worse. I would visit my parents, and we'd end up at the golf club, and there's the local mayor or the doctor or the lawyer or the judge, and they say, your father tells me you're a captain, and I have to then pretend to be something that I'm not.
But you're a captain.
Yes. So all my life, I've had to pretend to be something that I'm not. Finally, recently, I retired. So I decided, okay, for the first time in my life, I'm going to open up and I'm going to tell the world I am a pirate.
That had to be a big decision.
It was kind of wonderful, Eric. It was lovely. It was wow, very wow.
Well, was it? Did you feel free?
Yeah, I feel proud to open. Yes, very proud. You were very proud. And what happened was that nobody believed me, Eric.
So you came out of the closet, so to speak, and told people, I am a retired pirate, just like in the movies. And they chuckled and said, oh, you're just putting me on.
Yeah, you smoke too much, it's your fantasy. Or anyway, I laughed and kept on saying who I am. And I ended up putting the website. You saw my website, I think.
I have it up right now.
Yeah, it's Captain Tonz, TONZ.com. CaptainTonz.com.
What does the TONZ stand for?
Well, what I have to say is so broad spectrum here.
Okay.
I'll come to that.
Okay.
It depends where you work in the world. You take on a name.
Like a nickname. Okay.
Yes, an aka.
Right.
And when I was in the Red Sea, I was Captain Arabone, which
I saw that.
Yeah, which in effect is Arab one, to the two words Arab one put together.
Oh, yes. I see that now.
When I was in the South China Sea, they would call me Captain Tony Gomez. They couldn't say Cummins, which is my name. They ended up saying Gomez.
Gomez.
Yeah. So I couldn't correct them because of they were Filipino, Indonesian, and whatever, and so it got changed to Tony Gomez became Tonz.
Oh, I see.
And that was I've been Captain Tonz for about nearly 30 years.
And then how do you pronounce the word? Is it pirate, or Pyrian?
I'm a Piran.
Piran, okay.
Yeah.
Doesn't that mean pirate also?
Piran is the Greek root word for the word pirate.
So,
It's the original meaning of the word pirate.
Okay.
And it was termed by the great sage Solon 550 years before Jesus Christ. And he formed the word, and he formed an association of the Piran. And then he sailed with them for 10 years.
Did he start piracy? Did he kind of invent piracy?
Yes.
Okay.
We're talking about a great sage who had a reason for this. And what he taught these Piran, who later the word became Romanized and then bastardized into pirata and finally into today's English pirate.
Oh, I see.
Yes, the word Piran, its history starts Piran. That's
Huron pirate.
2,500 years ago, and now it's pirate.
It's almost like saying pirate.
Yeah, but I really, that is my problem. My problem is that regardless of my website, I'm being in contact with Hollywood and people who are making films of pirates. To be consultant with them. We are in contact, but they don't go any further because they don't believe I'm a pirate.
I guess the problem is, how do you provide evidence that you were a pirate? That has to be difficult.
Well, ask me a question, you know. If people ask me a question, then they're going to get the evidence. You know, we don't go around with an iPad and take photographs and selfies of ourselves while we're working. So there are no records of what we do, but there are. I mean, everything on my website is true and can be checked out by anybody. Anybody can check it out if they have the will to check me out. But until now, they don't. And
well, how many years were you a pirate?
I went to sea. I ran away from home at 14.
Yeah, I read that.
I went to sea at 15, and things happened that caused me to end up in Sweden. At 15, I went on a ship all the way around the world, Australia, New Zealand, all kinds of things, bad things happened. I ended up in Sweden, and I became a pirate. More or less, I was 18 and a half, nearly 19.
Okay.
So all my life on the sea, I have virtually been pirate.
So you were absent a lot.
Oh, yes.
And your family, how would you explain your absences? Just you were a ship's captain.
Well, without going into details, personal details, I've been married 3 times, and I've got children and all kinds of stuff going on in England, Italy, everywhere. So yes, I'm away and I'm back, and I'm away and I'm back, and then sometimes, of course, people are, unfortunately, the imagination of pirates is Treasure Island and Johnny Depp. And quite honestly, that's all they can see when you say the word pirate. And this is the problem. The problem is to break through this false vision of what is a pirate, to understand that pirates have changed the world, and they have an immense amount of information.
I think that modern day people, when they think of pirates, their mind will immediately go to the Somalia version of piracy, which is kind of ugly. But clearly, it's the fabric of the work you did was a little more complex and textured than that.
Well, I've worked with all kinds of pirates, and including Somalia pirates, and I've been to Somalia, and I've worked in Somalia, and I've done business there. Let me tell you that with the greatest respect to Tom Hanks and his film Captain Phillips, and I love Tom Hanks, but the story is something else. I've put a YouTube video on YouTube on my channel, which explains Somali piracy and the reasons for it. Somali pirates, however, do not belong to any world brethren or brotherhood of pirates. They are a separate entity, born of their reasoning, which we have empathy and sympathy with, but of which we are not connected. My deals with Somali pirates was basically contraband.
Right. Oh, I see. Okay, so I mean, it's one thing to steal cars, and it's another thing to steal marijuana or guns.
Well, I contraband camels. I took several hundred, in fact, almost 1,000 camels out. Camels, yes. Camels.
Camels?
Yeah.
Like the four-legged things?
Yeah, alive.
Oh, my gosh.
Very dangerous cargo, an incredibly dangerous cargo, Eric. You have to be awake all night. But that's in my website under camel. It's just normal work. What I'm here for is not really normal work. You can ask me as many questions about it as you like. I just want the people or somebody out there to believe.
Well, I think that, like everybody else, I'm wondering, well, how does this guy prove it? And, Anthony, it never occurred to me not to believe you. We exchanged some emails. I looked at your website. Pirates exist. I guess I'm wondering what the difficulty is people have in believing. Is it because you covered up so well?
Well, possibly. I don't know. But the thing is that if I have information, and I do have, that could be of great importance to humanity, to knowledge, then this information, if it comes from somebody who is unbelievable, they are not going to believe the message, are they?
Maybe not.
Right. So let me give you message one.
Go right ahead.
Thank you. Allora. This planet is made of magma. It's a molten ball of magma upon which there is a shell, which we call Earth and the sea.
Oh, okay.
This shell, however, is cracked in many places. And
you mean like fissures in the bottom of the sea?
Exactly, Eric. Exactly that. Now, tides pull the seas and oceans towards the sun and the moon.
Yes.
So as the Earth turns, we experience a high and a low tide as our part where we are standing on the planet enters and exits this high tide mark, which is being pulled by the sun and the moon. Are we clear on this, Eric?
Yes, so far.
Okay. What people don't understand, because they can't see it, is that beneath our feet is an ocean a zillion times bigger than the sea, which they can see coming in and rising and going down. And they can understand the sea is being pulled by the sun and the moon, which makes it do this. But they don't understand that beneath their feet, the liquid magma is doing the exact same thing.
That never occurred to me.
Well, that's my message, to put this on the table.
But it is a liquid, so sure. I guess that makes sense.
Now, this happens for thousands and thousands of years. We get an earthquake here and an earthquake there, a volcano eruption here, and it's all kind of in the normality of the situation of the planet. However, lately, we have noticed an incredibly large increase in volcanic and earthquake activity on the planet.
Yeah, I seem to hear a lot about earthquakes lately.
This is increasing, and the part that is interesting is that earthquakes are occurring where normally they don't occur.
Which some people attribute to things like, what is that thing they do to get oil out of the ground? Fracking.
Yes, but the earthquakes we're talking about are real ones, which are caused by the pressure of the magma,
Okay.
which is pushing from underneath up against the shell during the high tide. So these earthquakes occur 1 hour before or 1 hour after a high tide nearest to that point on the planet.
No, I had not heard that before.
Well, this is the new information I'm putting on the table
Okay.
for all the people to understand what is happening and this equation.
Okay.
Now, the reason there are more volcanic eruptions and earthquakes of late is simply because the magma that is underneath our feet is being pulled slightly differently because something has possibly entered into the solar system.
Okay. That sounds intriguing.
No, that's my message number one.
Oh. Did you learn this as a result of being a captain and a pirate?
Yes, you do. You understand the sea. You speak to the sea. You become one with the sea, and you understand the animals in the sea. You speak to them. You understand the color of the sea. You know what's happening because the magma speaks to the seabed, who speaks to the sea. So by tuning into the sea, you can understand what's happening in the magma. Everything.
Now, is this part of the information that you want to get to Hollywood?
No, the information for Hollywood is ridiculous Hollywood information.
Oh, okay, for making movies about pirates.
How to blow up a ship, stuff like that, Hollywood stuff.
Right.
I just mentioned Hollywood because should they have employed me, Eric, the film would have been that much better and that much more realistic.
So you feel like you could make things more authentic with what you know?
Well, of course. Have you ever seen pigs and chickens on these pirate ships they show you on the films? No. No. So,
No, I never heard of animals on the pirate ships, especially camels.
Well, when you get time, you read the camel story because it's quite funny, it's quite true, and it's easily checked out. I used to run camels from Berbera in Somalia, and every now and then they have a war between Somalia and Ethiopia. The border is always moving backwards and forwards depending on how many guns they have this week. You know what I mean, Eric?
Right. So camels were for transport.
Well, no, because if the Somalians attack, the Ethiopians run away and they leave their camels, so the Somalians collect.
Oh.
And they don't know what to do with the camels, so they sell the camels to us, and then we take the camels to a place like Saudi Arabia, where we get a lot of money for the camels.
Well, I'm curious. In American dollars, what does a camel go for?
In those days, that's a long time ago, but in those days, it was $2,200 a camel.
For one?
One camel, yeah.
And you would have 1,000?
No, I didn't take 1,000.
Okay.
I took 300 something. I don't really remember the number on the first trip. On the second trip, I wanted to break the record. So the record was an American guy had the record. He take 380, 390 camel.
How long was the voyage?
3 days.
So you needed 3 days worth of camel food.
Well, no, we also had buffaloes on board. We had loads of buffaloes and sheep. It was like Noah's Ark, actually. And very dangerous, Eric. But, yeah, we used to take the camels And sell them. That's another story.
That's a good one though.
Well, okay, but anyway, it's on my website there.
Okay.
CaptainTonz.com. Give it a plug.
Yes, absolutely. Actually, it's very easy. It's the word captain, and it's TONZ. Tango, Oscar, November, Z.
Yeah.
Go right ahead, Anthony.
So, I've forgotten where were we? I've given you my message. That's really cool about the magma. I want people to understand that when they see it coming out of a volcano, Eric, they all go, wow, look at that. But when they can't see it and they're walking down, where are you now? Maryland?
I'm in Maryland, yes. I'm not far from Baltimore.
They're in Maryland. The people in Maryland, they don't know that under their feet, under the water, under the oil, under whatever, eventually under their feet is this magma, which is a liquid, which is moving, which is speaking, which is doing things.
Yeah, I think when you live in Maryland, it just doesn't come to mind.
Exactly, I know. That's the problem. And that's why I'm trying to bring to light what is happening in the magma. Why the magma is creating these earthquakes and these volcanoes right now. That is because the magma is pointing out to something that is either approaching or parked not very, very far away from us.
Well, you do say on your website, you make some references to UFOs, for example. Is that connected to this?
It's everything, Eric, that pirates do. They are taught from the start. We're not that many. There's only a few hundred of us left.
Oh, okay.
But I'm talking about Piran, not just generals pirates. A lot of people are called pirates, but they're not Piran. They're just pirates, like Somali pirates.
Right.
Well, what you're taught is to look at the entire situation differently. The reason we always seem to win and why our job always seems so easy is because we do your job. We are very into psychology. You have to know your opponent before you take him on.
I would think so.
You have to step into his shoes, think like he thinks, do like he would do. And once you've done that, you're going to win, aren't you?
So you become a pirate through kind of like an apprenticeship. You learn by doing?
Yeah, I was very, very lucky. You don't apply to be a pirate. You're chosen. You're
right. There's no license.
No, somebody chooses you and you're moved from one place to another, and eventually you understand what's happening because you are chosen, and I was lucky enough to be chosen. That's simple as that. I was chosen when I was 18, 19, and I went on under an incredible teacher. I was in Gotland in the Baltic.
Okay.
And naturally, my teachings were quite Gothic and Templar in nature.
Oh, that's very interesting. Just Gothic and Templar are interesting.
Well, everything is connected, Eric. Mm-hmm. And I was lucky enough to be chosen by a pirate captain who I had certain skills that he required. And I happened to be the right guy at the right time. It's simple as that. That's how I became a pirate.
And you said you retired recently. Was that voluntarily?
Yeah. However, it depends. Sometimes they call me and they ask me for some logistic information. That's all.
But they don't ask you to go back out to sea.
No, that's where I've retired. I retired from going to sea.
Now, would you, as a result of your years at sea and as a pirate, would you describe yourself as well off, wealthy, or comfortable?
Oh, absolutely not.
Really?
Uh, uh, let's get back to the people think. Yeah, it's funny because people think, oh, we sit on a pirate ship out there on the sea waiting for victims and drinking rum and raping and pillaging. That's what people think. Well,
Right.
you can wait a year, 2 years, 3 years between jobs.
Oh,
So you can be unemployed as a pirate. You're not working as a pirate for even 3 years. So in the meantime, you have to do something else. So you take your money, you invest it in something, and you have
well,
another.
that's so you take a break. And speaking of breaks, we need to take one right now. So we're going to be back in just a moment with Anthony, and give you guys a chance to get something to drink or eat or whatever you want to do. And see you in just a moment. And we're back with Captain Anthony Cummins, who is a recently retired pirate, but also a sea captain and a man with an awful lot of interesting knowledge. As a matter of fact, we were talking a little bit about this during the break, that there's sort of a mental template of a pirate, sitting on a chest of gold coins, holding a bottle of rum in one hand and an eye patch and singing. But it doesn't sound like the reality is quite like that. But something else that, Anthony has talked about, it's on his website, I think it's in his book, is that he had some experiences, or at least one, I don't know, with UFOs out to sea. Do you have a UFO story, Anthony?
Well, Eric, UFOs are becoming daily occurrence. I mean, if people take the trouble to look up into the sky, sooner or later they're going to see one. But
Okay.
anything interesting I can tell you two things. First of all, very quickly, some UFOs, when you're at sea or wherever you are, even when you're not at sea, you tend to look at the sky, the night sky.
I would think so.
So you see things other people don't see.
Well, you would see the sky more often, because what else are you going to look at?
Exactly, Eric. So sometimes you see what we call an invisible UFO. It's black like the sky, only it moves very slowly, and it's invisible because you can't see it. It's either cloaked or whatever. And these are the big guys. These are the big ones. And when I say big, maybe bigger than an airship, like a Zeppelin. Bigger than a Zeppelin.
Okay.
But they're black or cloaked, so you can only see them as they float across the sky. They black out the stars, and slowly, after it's moved about 10, 15 degrees, you can understand its shape and its direction and everything else.
Okay.
So people should look also for the invisible ones, because they're big guys, and really, if you believe me, they're not really difficult to see. You can see them. Most of the small stuff seems to be drones, and most of these drones seem to be traveling in a search pattern. When you watch the flight path of the drone, it is definitely in a search pattern, mapping, or it's looking for something.
So they're smaller. They're drones, and they appear to be
They're the small ones.
looking for something.
Yeah, they're the small ones, and they're possibly unmanned drones.
Mm-hmm.
The interesting story I can tell you is that during the time of Solon, that when we started as an association, the PRN have been searching for something that they saw.
Okay.
Now, what they saw happened in the 16th century, when it happened again. And it was simply a flying ship, described as a flying ship that crashed into the sea.
Now, did you observe that?
No, this is in the 1680 something.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
the first ship on the scene was a pirate ship, and there wasn't much flotsam left, but what there was, they dragged that on board, and that information went into the pirate brethren and became a legend.
Do you think those little pieces, parts still exist?
No, they don't exist.
Okay.
They were described. And
Okay.
they didn't have any cameras in those days, so
Right.
So in the 1846, 1847, it happened again. This time it happened in the South China Sea, and the first ship to get there was a pirate ship. Only this time the ships were faster and they got there quicker, and there were more things.
There were what? More things?
More flotsam floating around the crash. So they dragged that aboard and they looked at that, and that again, that went into pirate legend.
Okay. So this was a smaller ship.
What they found floating was the drive of the UFO.
You mean the propulsion system? They found the propulsion system?
Yes.
Now that had to be amazing, especially to someone in the mid 1800s.
They didn't know that then.
They didn't know what they were looking at.
Oh, they described it, and that went into pirate legend, and this news traveled within the Brotherhood.
Well, you got to wonder where the pieces ended up.
Well, the pieces ended up. We know where the pieces ended up. Pieces ended up in the Philippines somewhere. But
Do you think? Okay.
Yeah.
And this is really fascinating, Anthony.
Yeah. But the thing is, it's like this. If you imagine you invented a time machine, Eric.
Okay.
And you switched it on to see if it works. And it came on. And you went, oh, shit. And you grabbed the first thing that you had at hand, and you put that in the time machine, and it's an iPad instruction manual. And you press the button, and it goes back 1,000 years.
Well, that would be something.
Well, when it arrived 1,000 years ago, the people, they're going to jump and they're going to say it's from heaven. They're going to put it in a box. They're going to pray to it. And it's going to be like very religious item.
That sounds about right.
Now, if you send that back 100 years instead of 1,000, then the people are going to say, oh, shit, they're going to understand it more. They're going to say, oh, this has come from a UFO, or it's come from the Germans. But they ain't going to understand anything.
Right. But I guess I'm thinking that by the mid-1800s, there were at least a few scientists around that would have been curious.
Sure. They'd be curious. They'd understand something, but it's still going to be a big, incredible thing locked away. The CIA, the government, or Secret Service, got to be protected. If you send it back 24 hours, you send it back 24 hours, and all it is a worthless iPad instruction manual.
Right.
As time progresses, information that exists and existed 100 years ago or 1,000 years ago, today, with the technological advantages we have, we can understand that much better what it was we saw.
Okay.
So
that makes sense. And I like your analogy of 1,000 years, 100 years, 24 hours ago.
that was just so your listeners can understand where I'm coming from here. So if we have information from 1,000 years ago, you know, it's been treated as religious from God, the angels, or who knows what. Well, now with the technology we have, we can understand this information. Simple as that.
Right. But it makes me wonder if something from 1,000 years in the future suddenly, came floating up and they brought it onto a ship. What would they do with it now?
What would they do with it now, if we had it now, is use it, build a ship and fly after these guys.
Go after them, steal what they have.
Sure, absolutely.
I have to tell you, I'm a little off track here, but I'm very disappointed that you're not rich.
Well, I have a nice house.
Okay. Well, that's good.
I have a dog. I have 3 ex-wives. I have 4 children.
Okay, well, if you have 3 ex-wives, you can't be rich by definition.
I have a house in Thailand. I have a house here in Italy. I'm okay. I don't need money.
It worked out pretty good.
I'm okay. So It's really not a problem. The important thing is to try and get some of these messages out that I have.
Right.
So, and some of the information. Look, how do pirates think? What information do we have? How can we interpret this into your words, Eric? Because the people don't understand me. I speak pirate. But I'm going to give you an example. How many people believe the first page in the Bible where it's Genesis and it says on the first day, God made heaven and earth? Stop. Well, I don't even think the priests themselves believe that. So how can you really believe that? Well, we believe it. Because it's very simple, Eric. It's very simple to believe, Eric. Because on the first day, the first visit, the first time God came here, we didn't exist. When he arrived here, he put a cross on his star chart to mark our position in the stars, and therefore we existed, and we came into being.
Okay, so does that make you a believer or a non-believer?
You can't be a pirate if you believe in any religion.
Okay. So are you an atheist?
You call it what you like, but we are totally against any kind of religion.
Okay, that's close enough. I get it. Okay.
Without going into details, because I know you have a lot of religious listeners out there.
I actually don't know.
Well,
I find that a lot of people that are into paranormal are actually not very religious because they feel like this whole system of our existence is more complicated than can be accounted for simply by religion. So you're probably speaking to a lot of like-minded people.
Well, that's very nice to know. I'm really trying my best here, Eric, to keep it as light as possible without going into any deep bottom line situations,
Sure.
Because what we believe is really happening right now. On my website, there is a button called prophecy. I'd like, anyone's listening there, you go to my website and you click on prophecy, and that's happening right now. So that's why I'm here, to tell the people what is happening right now. Right now, something has entered into the solar system.
Right now.
Right now.
So do you believe that there's going to be some sort of an event that you want people to know about?
In my book, the event is called The Crossover. My book is a fairy story because if I wrote it seriously, Eric, no one would even understand a word. So I made it into a modern-day fairy story.
Okay.
Witches and wizards and stuff like that. It's quite funny, but it carries this message. It carries this message of what is about to happen on this planet, if you like.
Sure. And when you say about to happen, do you have a
it's already
time? It's already happening.
Yeah, it's already happening. There's a program in place. And, people that what you have to understand here, the people have to understand when they see a UFO, I see a UFO. Okay. And internet's full of pictures of UFOs. Oh, and number one, a UFO is built in a UFO factory.
Well, makes sense.
It's materials that it's made of are mined and fabricated, and it's got a crew and the captain and an engineer and one or two other guys. And once you get down onto this level of understanding why is this UFO going there, why is this UFO doing that, and why, above all, everybody must ask this question, why are they so silent? Why don't they speak to us? Because obviously they know we can see them. They are connected to our internet. They watch our television programs. Basically, they watch the adverts of our television programs to see all the produce, the wonderful produce we are making here on this planet.
And the commercials. They probably watch the commercials, and they think we're crazy.
Commercials. That's the only interesting thing. They watch the commercial, and you have to understand these guys are in a UFO. It's made in a UFO factory. They watch the commercial, and they see this commercial of this really nice Napoleon brandy. Don't you think they would like a nice glass of Napoleon brandy? So they must be suffering there by being silent.
Well, unless they're making it themselves. In the chat room, Sky33 asks, "What is about to happen?" And he also asked, Sky, I don't know your sex, and also. So first of all, Sky wants to know what's about to happen, and secondly, why would they want to speak to us?
Well, the second part first, they don't want to speak to us because they're under orders not to speak, because the program is that there is not to be any contact at this moment in time.
Okay.
As for the first part of the question, when a pirate finds an island, then if the island is in such a position, in such a place, and in such a way, he will put on the island 2 pigs and 2 chickens.
2 pigs and 2 chickens. Why is that?
This is normal pirate stuff that they don't show you in films.
Okay.
So if he comes back along that coast again after 2, 3, 4, 5 years, he's going to find an island full of chickens and pigs.
So you can make breakfast.
And he can make breakfast. He can have an American breakfast.
That's right. I don't know folks caught earlier on that you're British.
So in answer to the question from the chat room is it's breakfast time.
It's breakfast time. So they put it. I'm surprised 2 is enough.
Usually they put piglets because they've always got piglets on pirate ships. Right. So they'll put piglets. One of them has to be a male, one has to be a female, obviously.
Right.
And so they put them on the island, and it's got to be an island where the pigs can eat crabs, they can fertilize the ground, and things can grow, and they know that in 3 or 4 years' time when they come back, it's going to be okay. They got pigs and everything.
Okay. I have another question for you from the chat room. Would today's sea pirates steal the Anunnaki's gold if they found it?
Today's sea pirates, like myself, we are called upon to take part in an operation. And who requires our special services will call us in because they can't find in their normal sphere of operations.
Okay, task-oriented. You're just not randomly running around looking.
Yeah.
People specifically, I'm trying to think of the word, but they specifically ask you to do a specific task.
Yeah. So, you know, I had the honor of capturing 2 ships at the same time in the Red Sea. And it was really so easy, you know, but I became a bigger pirate because of it, that I'd captured 2 ships at the same time.
That's pretty good.
I captured the ships on orders, you know. I didn't capture the ships for myself.
Right.
I captured the ships because I was paid to go and capture these ships.
So that was the task.
Yeah.
To go capture these 2 ships. Were they surprised?
Well, yeah. They fired on us with everything they had, you know. And we were more surprised than they because we didn't expect to be fired on with cannons and shit, you know.
Did you carry a lot of armaments?
No, I carried absolutely no armaments at all that night.
Is it unusual that you had such a long career? I'm starting to think of pirates as not living very long.
Well, there again, this is the myth. Pirates, I mean, some of the world has been changed by pirates. I don't intend to change the world. If I did, it would be a better world, I can assure you. But, yeah, I mean, Rurik, he changed the world. He gave birth to Russia. And so, yeah, there's pirates all over the place that have changed the world. But what is happening right now to the world can't see it. It's being hidden from them. And it's breakfast time.
For who?
Well, whoever planted the breakfast here is going to collect it. And it's strange that the commodities we have now, at 7-8 billion people on the planet, all tend to run at the 60 million ton mark. You know, the world produces 60 million tons of potatoes, of rice, of wheat, 66 million tons of milk, and 63 million tons of eggs. You know, it's all this 60-something million tons of fish. And so if somebody was to come here, you know, like a pirate returning to the island with all pigs on it, he would find, or they would find, a planet that is absolutely fully booked with food.
Oh.
And one of the biggest commodities in space, like on the sea, the same thing, this is an island in space, is food.
That makes sense.
There are planets with diamonds and gold and copper and all other kinds of shit they need. They go there, they get that. But
I think what we'll have to do is have you on again, because we only have a minute left.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I wanted to give you time to talk about your website and how people can get your book.
Well, that's nice. If they go to CaptainTonz.com, the book is there. They can click on the book. The book is called The 13th Day. It's a fairy story and explains what this secret, unknown group of people know is about to happen.
Okay. Well, we're going to have to end here, which is a shame because this is very, very fascinating.
Okay.
But we'll have you on again, and I hope you get on some other shows. That's it for this week. Thank you very much to Anthony Cummins for
Thank
coming
you.
on to the show. Thank you, Anthony. And thank you to all of you for listening. And I hope you have a great week. Remember to smile a lot because it makes your brain happy. And I will see everyone again next Sunday night at 7 p.m. Take care, folks.